CMM 325, Computer Mediated Communication. Whenever you log into the course on Blackboard, this is going to be the very first page that you see, which is the announcements page. I use the announcement page regularly, so please make sure that you pay attention to these announcements because it is a great way to keep up with what is going on in this class. So this course is laid out in a pretty simplistic fashion. Over here on the left-hand side are what we call the content areas. We have course communication, course content, and support. Across the top over here, we have your Blackboard, courses, community support, content collection, the library, and Starfish. The one that I do want to point out up here is what is called the support tab. If you click on that, you're going to find a number of different support options. Everything from getting oriented to online learning and academic support options at SUNY New Paltz to technology support to institutional policies. All of these are there to help you learn more about online learning, and specifically in the state of New York and at SUNY New Paltz. So that kind of gives you an idea about some of the support options that we have here. I'm going to go back into the course itself, again back here to the announcements page, and we're going to walk through how this course is laid out. To help us get started, we're going to click right here on Course Orientation. This is basically an overview, and as you can see here, this is the Welcome to CMM 325 video. From there, it has a number of different folders that have different types of content. Let's look at this very first one, Online Learning Introduction. When you click on that folder, you're going to find information about our online courses right for you. What are some common components? What are some myths and misconceptions about online courses? Characteristics of a successful online learner and online student checklist. These are just some really good things to think about as you are getting ready to take an online course here at SUNY New Paltz. I'm going to click back over here into the out of the course orientations just so we can go back into it. Right below that is a student guide to Blackboard. This is actually a course that you have access to through lynda.com. It is the Blackboard 9.x Essential Training for Students. You can access your lynda.com material at SUNY New Paltz through your my.newpaltz.edu account. You will need to be logged in to be able to watch this complete course. If you are familiar with Blackboard, you probably don't need to watch this course. But if you are a first-time user of Blackboard, I highly recommend going through this course just to get yourself up and running. From there, we have a bunch of other folders that have a lot of other information. For example, how to find help when you need it, how to submit an assignment, how to use the discussion board. It also includes a welcome discussion that you are required to participate in. There's the syllabus and course policies. Let's go ahead and click on this folder. First thing in here is, of course, going to be the syllabus itself. So I'm going to go ahead and open the syllabus. And as you can see here, it's going to have the logo for the course right off the top. It's then going to have my information and how you can go ahead and get a hold of me and contact me. Then it talks about the course itself, the required textbooks for the course, the learning objectives, the assignments. There's also a section here, what is online learning, which is basically how do we define online learning in the state of New York. There's also the online learning verification policy that you should be aware of here at SUNY New Paltz. Then there's basic course policies, and lastly there are campus-wide policy statements that you should be aware of. Towards the bottom, then you get into the course assignments. It's going to break it down for you for each of the different things. A couple things here to notice is that this is the online discussions. You are required each week to participate in online discussions. Some weeks there will be one discussion. Other weeks there will be two discussion boards. You are required to post an initial post and then respond to at least two of your peers over the course of the week. So that is, some weeks you'll have a minimum of 3 posts, other week you will have a minimum of 6 posts, depending on whether or not there are multiple discussion boards for that week. Your first post, notice right here, it's in red and italicized, you should make your first post no later than Thursday at 11:59 p.m. This is to ensure that you have the ability to engage in a discussion about these posts with your peers. And then again, right under that, it says, for each discussion question posed, you must respond to at least 2 of your peers. This is in addition to making your first post. If you have any questions about that, please do not hesitate to ask. Each week, there are also content quizzes. I'll be more than happy to go over a quiz if you do not do as well as you would like to do, or you can come by and see me during my office hours. I do not release these quizzes because I do use them on a regular basis, even though I do change them every year. Big note, during week 1, there are 3 different quizzes. There's an orientation quiz. There's the APA style quiz. We'll look at that in a second. And then there is a module 1 content quiz. This is the only week that has multiple quizzes. From there, you have what are called your reaction papers. Now, the reaction papers are designed for you to analyze your own computer-mediated communication experiences. These are not designed to be cumbersome. You will write 4 of these over the course of the semester. Now, here is the one thing that's interesting about this versus other classes. I let you pick which weeks you want to write them. The only caveat is that you cannot write your first reaction paper and your second reaction paper back to back. I want you to have at least 1 week in there so that I have a chance to provide you with feedback. That way, if you had some problems on your first reaction paper, it's not going to negatively impact you on your second, third, and fourth. Now, I highly recommend you space these throughout the entire semester and do not wait until the end of the semester, even though you could theoretically do that. But reality is, you know when you're going to have midterms, you know when you're going to start having final projects. I recommend not spacing your reaction papers around those other assignments. So I would look at your syllabi for other classes and figure out which weeks are going to be the best ones for your life to write about the different reaction papers. Now, when it comes to the reaction papers, it must cover the content that is covered that week in course, not any week. So there is that little stipulation. There's also a final project, and we'll talk more about this as we go along. There's also always a possibility of extra credit, but I never guarantee it. So from there we have the tentative schedule. It's broken down by week by module. For Module 1, which is the first week of class, you're going to read Westerman et al. Chapter 1. You're going to read the Guzman Introduction and Chapter 1. You're going to take an orientation quiz, which we've already mentioned. There's also the APA style quiz, because you are required to use APA style in all of your papers and in your discussion posts. And then there is quiz number 1. So let's go back in here and look at some other things in the course orientation folder. For example, right under the syllabus, there is how to check your grades. Then there is this little link right here, take a quiz. This is where that orientation quiz is located. Please make sure that you complete it. It is one of your quizzes and it is graded. And then lastly, you have more support information, and then there's a summary. And basically, it tells you to go to the next hyperlink, which is right below that one, called textbook. This is basically going to tell you information about the textbook itself. There are 2 textbooks. There's Introduction to Computer-Mediated Communication, which has changed its title in the 2nd edition to Introduction to Mediated Communication, Social Media and Beyond. It is written by David Wasserman, Nick Bowman, and Kenneth Lachlan. You can see here, if you want to get the e-version, you can click on this hyperlink, and it's going to take you right there to the publisher website where you can get the e-book. If you want to get the paperback version, they should have that at the bookstore for you. Right below that is another chapter. This one is, another book is called Human-Machine Communication, Rethinking Communication Technology and Ourselves by Guzman. It is a brand new book that just came out. And again, there's also an ebook version. So you can click on their website, and this one, they have a lot of different options. They have the EPUB and PDF versions, paperback and hardback. Again, they should have copies of this at the campus bookstore, but you can always get it online. I do have the first chapters for both of these books, which is going to cover the information for week 1 available for you. After week 1, you are responsible to have these books and be able to access the content. I will not provide you any other resources after week 1. This is an online course. Having the course textbooks is the only way that you're going to be able to do well in this class, especially when it comes to the weekly quizzes. From there, let's move down to the next hyperlink, which is content. Go ahead and click on that. The very first thing in here you're going to have is that mentioned APA style tutorial and quiz. You're going to click on it. Here is actually going to help you. It's going to open up when you click on it, the actual APA style quiz, which is a whole course. This is letting me know that you can pick it up and keep going. I'm not going to watch it because it's basically my voice. Right below that is the quiz that goes along with it. There are 35 questions. You can take this quiz as many times as you need to get a passing grade. I am more concerned with your ability to learn APA style than you having taken one quiz and doing well. So you have the option of taking it as many times as you need to get a good grade. From there, we have the learning modules. Let's go ahead and click into the learning modules. You'll see that each week is broken down into a separate module. There are 15 modules. So let's look at how these are laid out. In week 1, you have module 1. Over here, you kind of have a general idea about what's going to be covered. To navigate through the modules, you're going to click on either the button right here or the button right here. And it's going to take you through, and it's going to have, in this case, there's a bunch of videos. I'm just going to click on the first one just to kind of give you an idea.
If you're like most people, computers are becoming a part of your life.
So these videos are just some general ones that are going to help you understand some of the basics related to the field. From there, you can keep going. There's going to be a video here about Tim Berners-Lee, who is the person who created the World Wide Web. From there, you're going to have information about a documentary that is called about War of the Worlds, and so it's kind of nice. So one thing, as you'll see here, is you do have to be logged into your library account to be able to access this material. So you do want to make sure that to access this that you are logged into the library at the same time, or it's not going to show up here. So just as a heads up. As we keep going, there's a lovely discussion here called Clippy's Revenge, and then of course there is the week 1 quiz. So you'll notice that automatically opens up for you. Now, I am going to go back because I do want you to realize that with the War of the Interworlds, this is also a discussion. So you want to make sure that you also participate in that discussion as well. So if you have any questions at all about any of the modules, they are designed to be laid out very simplistically from week to week. You'll notice the first thing is going to tell you what chapters to read. Then you're going to have usually some kind of videos, like this one is a documentary about the internet. From there, it's going to have another video. Then it's going to have a discussion question of some kind. So I'm going to go ahead and click on, if you click to launch, it's going to open up the discussion. You'll notice that no one in here is posted. One of the things you are going to notice that is for some of the discussion questions, you will not see any of your peers' responses until you've made your first post. So don't think that you're the first one to post. It's just you may not necessarily be able to see your peers' posts until you've responded. I do that so that you don't necessarily respond the way that your peers do. You respond in the way that you are going to respond. And again, you'll notice right off the bat, the last thing again in each week is that quiz. So there is a quiz for each of the learning modules. I'm going to go back in here to the content folder. And the next thing we have here are the reaction papers. Again, there are 4 reaction papers. There is a template. Notice it is in big capital letters and red. You must use this template. It is not optional. Papers that are submitted not using this template as is will not be graded. They will be returned to you to be reformatted. I'm going to go ahead and download the template and open it in Microsoft Word. As it is opening, one thing I want you to realize is that it's designed to be very, very user-friendly. So if it says type here, you're going to double click and you're going to replace that with information from yourself. When it says title of paper goes here, you're going to write in a title for your paper. Your name will go there. Then again, your title of the paper goes here. Then for each section, you'll see a little brief description of what I expect to see. Like here is a brief introduction to the paper. The second section is identification of key principal content. Now, one thing I want you to see is this is an APA level 1 heading. These headings should stay in your paper. The rubric is actually based on these headings. So it's one of those things you want to make sure that you keep those headings so that I know what I am supposed to be grading in a very quick and easy way. Then I'm going to have specific information as for what it is that I am looking for. Again, you can look at that. One thing I want you to realize, though, is that all of these are supposed to be about your own computer-mediated communication experience. So it's not just specifically about media in general. So you're not going to be writing about television or radio. We are specifically talking about computer-mediated communication in this class. So we do want to make sure that you are applying it in that respect. The last thing here is information. I have references here. I provided you the reference for the introduction and for the first chapter because each chapter in the Guzman book is actually cited differently. So do make sure that you look at that. And then, of course, here is a citation for the Westerman, Bowman, and Laughlin. Again, in every week, you may not necessarily use all of these, but I do want you to have that there. And you can go through and see information on how to cite using APA. So just more information in that template to make your lives easier. Now, here are some reminders. 1, you cannot turn in 2 papers in a week. You cannot write a paper based on a previous week's material. If you turn in a paper this week, it must be based on the material that is covered this week. A textbook is not considered a peer-reviewed academic source. You are required to have at least 1 academic journal article that you cite in each of these 4 papers. And then I guess starting around April 23rd, I will start inserting zeros if you have not actually completed any of your reaction papers, because that's getting us towards the end of the semester and there's just not enough weeks left. Down here at the bottom is the rubric. You can see exactly how it is that I am going to be evaluating these papers. Again, it is designed to be very, very straightforward and very friendly for you. Next in the course content area will eventually be the final projects. I want you to go ahead and see there are some sample projects in here that you can look at. I'm going to be uploading some from last spring. There's a final project turn in. There's 2 sections for that. One is basically to check to make sure that there's no issues of plagiarism. The other one is where I want it actually turned in. And then, of course, there is the rubric, so you can have a general idea about exactly how I plan on grading these. I try to make all of my grading in this class as straightforward as humanly possible. So I'm going to click over here on the home, and it's going to take us back to that announcement page. So again, this has just been a quick walkthrough of everything you need to know about how the course is laid out for CMM 325, Computer Mediated Communication. I look forward to working with all of you over the course of the rest of this semester.